All right, so welcome to Chair Yoga today, and in today's class we're going to do something a little more unusual in the fact that I want to open up the front of the hips a little bit today. So usually when we sit in a chair, you can probably see this. Try and sit on the edge of a chair with your knees bent. You can see that your hips close up. In other words, the hip flexors tighten and you shorten those muscles in the front of the body. And if we sit like this for a long period of time, it creates a lot of issues in the low back. It creates a lot of discomfort, etc. So sometimes when we sit a lot, it's good to practice opening up the front of the body, which isn't so easy on a chair. But today we're going to see how we go with that. It's going to be a little bit of an experiment. So the first thing I want you to do is come to a normal seated position at the front of the chair and feel how the hips close up, tighten. And this is, of course, a really nice way to create good posture. Now take your hands onto your chair for a moment and slowly lean back into the back of the chair so you open the hips up just a little bit. You might even bring the hands behind the head and kind of lean back like you're sunbaking. And then if you want to come into a more fully reclined opening, start to slowly straighten the legs out. Now, as you straighten the legs out and push the hips forward a little bit, it takes the pressure off the hips when they're closed. It creates a little hip flexor opening. And we'll come into a little bit more of that, how to open the hips while we're sitting, but this is one of the easiest ways to do it. Now, you can also, while you're doing this, flex the ankles by curling the toes back towards the shin, and you should feel your calf muscles starting to stretch out. So this is a nice pose to come into to open up the hips. Toes curled back, stretching the lower legs. Now you can stay here as long as you like. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, if you're going to come with me, bring your hands to the chair. Start to close the hips again. Keep the legs extended. And then slowly bend one knee and then the other. And once again, you feel the hips start to close up. Another nice way to open the hips is a strength-bearing exercise. So by all means, try this. If this is too much, you tell me. Bring the hands onto the edges of the chair, right beside you. Push down with the feet and start to lift the hips up and forward, opening up the hips, using your arms to support your weight, and then slowly come back. Did you feel how that opened up the hips? Let's try a few repetitions of that. This is a great way to get strength in your triceps. You know those little muscles that hang down here? This is a nice way to tighten those up. So we take the weight into our arms are straight, and we lift the hips and push the hips forward for 1, 2, 3. Exhale as you come up, 4, and then 5, and come down. And shake out your arms. Let's come back into that reclined position once again. Extend the legs, curl the toes back, lean back, and open up the hips. So you can see this is a really nice way to use say a reclined chair where you can support the legs and lean back a little bit. But if you're in a normal chair, it's not always that easy. Now I'm going to do some more strength-bearing exercises if you'd like to try them with me. If these are too challenging, remember you can come back to what we just did with the knees bent. So keeping the legs straight this time, sit up. Keep the arms straight and strong, toes curled back. So this gives a modest hip opening. Now watch what I do is I lift my hips up and create a reverse plank and then come down. So that's a very strong weight bearing exercise. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what it looks like. Arms are straight, I'm on the chair, and then I lift my hips up, push the hips forward, it opens the hips and gives me my strength exercise there, and slowly come down. Bend the knees and come back to neutral. So other ways to open the hips, apart from lengthening the hip flexors, is widening the adductors. So lean back, extend the legs this time out to the sides, toes curled back. Now you might feel like you're slipping off the chair here, so be careful. And once again, you get that stretch on the inner thighs with the hips open. That's it. Hands behind the head if you like, and then bring the hands out to the side into five-pointed star. That's it. Bend the elbows and create goddess arms. If you can, drop the elbows down into scarecrow. Drop the hands down, that's it. Back up to goddess, out to five-pointed star, back behind the head. If you, and then slowly bring the hands down to your chair and come back up. So another way to open the hips is laterally. So we still have the hips folded here, but we've widened the knees. Can you see how far my knees have come out here? And the feet are pointing outwards. So we call this a sumo squat position. Let the torso come forward and lean your hands into your thighs. Can you feel how that stretches through the groin area and the adductors, opening the hips in that lateral opening? To add a little bit more stretch sensation, drop your left shoulder down. This is actually my right shoulder, but I'm going to mirror you. Drop your left shoulder down, bend your right elbow, and push that left knee away from you. Oh, feel that stretch. So that's a big hip opening there. Inhale, come up. And then do the same to the other side. Right hand stays straight, right arm. Push that right knee away. Left elbow bends, stretching that right side of the leg. Let's try that once again, each side. Lean to the right, push with the left. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lean to the left, push with the right. Whoo! So we get a different kind of hip opening in this way. So when the hips are open, not so much. Close them a little bit so you can see it's not quite as an exaggerated stance. Could you lean your elbows on your thighs like you're a philosopher thinking deeply about life? So you're leaning forward, and you drop your chin towards the chest as you look down at the earth, and you feel the back of the neck lengthen. And you lift up. Lift up, look up as if you're trying to look at the birds overhead. and then you drop the chin down again. So you create this little nodding motion. And move slowly as you nod the head up and down. We're going to come into a very deep fold here in a moment, where the front of the hips close up very tightly. So you may or may not want to do this, depending on your hips. But it's going to give a very delicious stretch to the low back. If you have a block handy, or a book, or a can of baked beans, anything you want that you put on the floor right in between your feet. Lean forward once again, and then drop your hands down to whatever object you have down between your feet. And you can see the hips close up a little bit more, but we still have that wide opening. Bend your elbows and feel your head and torso come down deeper towards the floor. It's going to put a lot of squeeze on the thighs. Straighten your arms like you're doing a push-up and come up. Bend the elbows, come down, exhale. Straighten the arms, come up, inhale. So you're really feeling a little bit of strength work here as well while you're stretching out the low back and feeling that inside the hip flexors. If your hips are okay with this forward bend, I'm going to ask you to stay down here now. So you let the weight of the torso stretch the low back, and you might even cross the arms and dangle. That's going to give a very deep stretch to the low back. It's going to give a lot of stretch to the inner thighs. To come up slowly, straighten the arms, rest the elbows. Move the block or can of baked beans out of the way. Lift the head, walk the hands back. So what do you think is the right thing to do after we've deeply bent forward like that? It's to open the hips back up. So extend the legs out, opening the hips. Make sure you're at the front of your chair, almost like you're about to slip off. Use your hands to support you as you lean back once again. And open up those hip flexors. So you feel the hip flexors open up once again. Now we're going to do some work later on with the hip flexors that will require us to use the chair in a different way. Because it's hard to find ways to open the hip flexors when we're sitting on a chair. For those who want to do a little bit of strength conditioning here, bring the hands to the seat of the chair, keep the legs extended, and then lift the hips up, create a reverse plank that really opens up the hip flexors. And to do that, you want to squeeze the buttocks. Squeeze the buttocks. Use the strength of your glutes to help hold you up, and then slowly come down. Bend one knee, and then the other. Now, a nice way to get into the hip flexors without too much strain is to create hip circles. Bring your hands onto your knees and start to create a circular motion with your torso. The hands will anchor your position so you can't come back too far. But you can come forward a long way, almost like you're trying to bring the head to the ground to create a bigger circle, if you want to. This lubricates the hip joint. It helps secrete and spread synovial fluid here to help the hip joint glide. The next time you come up, pause. Just notice how your hips feel. And then go back the other way. So you circle the opposite direction. Let's do 5 circles here. Nice slow circles, almost like you're massaging the hips. Two more. And then slowly come back to stillness. Notice how your hips feel. For this next sequence of our chair yoga class, what I'd like to do is ask you to stand beside your chair if you can. All right? So to stand beside your chair, I'd like to teach you my way of getting off a chair. So I have my feet about shoulder width apart. So check that your feet are about shoulder width apart. And lean forward for a moment and notice how the weight comes into your feet. Can you feel that? And then sit up. And notice how the weight shifts back to your sit bones. Try that again. Lean forward and feel the weight come into the feet. And notice if you put your hands down onto your leg muscles, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, your calf muscles, can you feel how they tighten up? They get strong. They engage. As you come back, they relax. Isn't that interesting? So your legs have their own intelligence. Your legs know when you lean forward that you're asking them to support you to stand. So they're already gearing up to stand you. And that's why I get a little bit sad when I see people stand up by twisting and using their hands to stand up. When you do that, you're teaching the wrong muscles to stand you up. And when you teach the wrong muscles to stand you up, as those muscles get weaker, you get to a point where you can't stand up. But the muscles that stand you up are the biggest muscles in the body. They're designed to stand you up, so we're going to keep them strong. So just doing this exercise alone is strengthening those muscles. Just that lean forward, muscles engage, come back, muscles relax. Even if you did 10 or 20 of those repetitions a day, you might be surprised in a short period of time how much stronger those muscles get. Now sometimes people's muscles aren't strong enough to pick them up, but today I'm going to assume they are. If they're not, we'll talk more about that in later class sessions if you like. But if I reach forward and come forward far enough, I suddenly come off the chair and slowly come up and stand up. And I didn't twist to do that. So here we have the chair, and you're standing on the right side of your chair. So stand on the right side of your chair. Left hand holds the chair. Now lean a little bit into the chair, so you're leaning to the left, and pick up your right knee. Drop the right knee. So we're bending and flexing the hip by picking up the knee and lowering it. So that's not really opening the hip, that's contracting the hip, which is important. We want to strengthen the hip as well. So this is a great strengthening exercise for the hip flexor. So the question is, how do we open it more? So turn a little bit towards the chair and pick up that right leg and put it on top of the chair. And if you can, slide your left hand down just below the knee, halfway down the shin. Lean your body weight a little bit towards the chair and then pick that foot up behind you as you hold the chair. Some of you will be able to slide your hand down towards the ankle. Some people like to use a strap around the ankle and hold a strap. Now your left hand's important because if I move that left hand back towards my body more, I stand up straighter. And if I push my right knee forward more, I open and stretch that right hip. Oh, this is a big quadricep stretch. Now I don't know who's got a lot of background here with yoga, but if you feel competent, you could even practice some balance here by lifting a hand. Stretch for 3, 2, and now slowly release that foot to the ground. And you should notice a big difference between your right hip and your left hip. You've spent a lot of time opening that right hip by standing. Let's come to the other side. So now the chair is on your right. Your right foot is close to the chair so that as you lean into the chair, do you see how I lean a little bit into the chair? That takes my weight over the right leg so I can lift my left knee up. Bang. 2, 3, 4. So my right leg is taking my weight. Turn a little bit towards the chair. Lean your weight forward as you lift that left leg up onto the chair. Slide the hand down over the knee to about mid-shin level and then pick that foot up and your hand might naturally slide towards the ankle. Find the position with your left hand that feels nicest on that foot. And we've opened the hip. The left hip is nice and open now. We call this hip extension. That quadricep muscle is getting a nice stretch. If I walk my right hand back a little bit and squeeze my shoulder blades, woo, I open it up a little bit more. Yay. Now if I push my left hip forward and squeeze my buttocks, I even stretch it more. Now I'm getting to a point where my right hand almost feels redundant. As I squeeze the shoulder blades, I find balance here as I keep strength in that right leg. That's a little bit more advanced chair yoga, but it does give you something to play with. Exhale, release. And now just feel how the front of the hips have opened up so much more. So much more. We're going to do a little experiment because I know not everybody can do the standing work. We're going to see if we can do something similar while we sit on a chair. So consider yourself guinea pigs. All right, we're going to do some experiments here. You're both the scientist and the guinea pig. So we'll see how we go. Come back to your chair. to sit down on your chair rather than twist. Feel the back of the chair, feel the chair on the back of your legs. Hinge forward, and as you hinge forward, keep looking up. You might even touch the chair, and you slowly come down. So that keeps those muscles nice and toned. All right, so here's our experiment. Shuffle your sit bones towards the front of the chair. If anybody has a strap or a dish towel or something that you might need, you can have that handy. Just something to grip your ankle with. We're going to do some hip openings. Open that left knee out 90 degrees, so you open the hip 90 degrees, and then close it again. Your hips should be starting to feel pretty good by now. Right hip, same, 90 degrees, close it. Now, if you can't do 90 degrees, let's say you can only do that much. Just do that much. Just get used to opening and closing the hip. And the closer you sit to the front of the chair, the easier it becomes. All right, 1, 2. Now, when you open the left hip out, pause. Grab hold of the chair with your hands and turn your body to the left. As you turn your body to your left butt is going to slide back, and your right butt is in the air. So give yourself a little pat on the right butt. If it's still on the chair, just turn a little bit more. Now here we go. See, this is where you might need a strap, but we'll try it without the strap. Lift up that right knee, hold the back of the chair, lift up that right knee, slide the hand down, and grab your shin and pull it back. So we're opening that right hip, stretching the quadricep just like we did when we were standing, but now we're sitting sideways on the chair. Squeeze your right shoulder blade. Oh, open up your chest, look up, and feel that. Open the front body, including that front right hip. Let me show you what it looks like with a strap. If you can't do it with the strap, I bring the strap over my ankle. So as I pull it back, I hold with the strap. And I get that. You can see how I'm leaning and holding the back of the chair. And release. Shall we try the other side? That's a yes. Good. Slowly turn the body to the center. Walk your sit bones towards the front of the chair and rotate that right hip. Swivel the body to the right. Keep your right sit bone on the chair. Left sit bone is free. Now you might use a strap here or not. Grab the back of the chair with that right hand. Lift the left knee and grab the shin or ankle and bring it back behind you and pull it back towards your buttocks. Squeeze the left shoulder blade, left shoulder back, look up, opens up that front hip. Quadricep stretch for 3, 2, and release. Grab the chair and come back to center. So we're going to open up the right hip one more time in a different way. Open the left knee up. Turn the body to the left. Keep the left sit bone on the chair. Hold the back of the chair. And take that right foot back behind you. You see that? You see how it opens up that right hip? Bring your right hand on your hip. Look straight to the left side of the chair. Now watch what I do with my back leg. I relax it, the knee comes towards the floor, and then I try to straighten it, and that opens up my right hip. And I engage that right leg. Relax, straighten, relax, straighten. So that's a way of opening up that right hip. And many of you at this point know that this is the position you might come into for warrior one. Lift the right hand up, left hand up, and there's your warrior. Bring that right hip forward more to open that right hip. Exhale, bring the hands down, relax the leg. Grab hold of your chair and slowly turn back to center. So we're doing some more advanced ways of opening up the hips using our warrior poses. So it's a great suggestion today to open up the front of the hips because they're the things that close up when we sit a lot. Let's try the other side. Rotate that right leg. Turn the body towards the right and keep the right sit bone on the chair. Left sit bone is in the air. Extend the left leg behind you. You'll see that I'm on the toes here. So this is a nice toe stretch as well. Left hand, left hip. I'm going to start to straighten that back leg. Drive the heel bone back. And relax. It's like pumping the back leg. Drive it back, engage, strengthen, stretch the hip flexor, and then relax. Two. Let's do two more. 1, 2, and hold. Hold that stretch. Even when you lift the left hand up, it stretches that front hip flexor more. If you lift both hands up, it opens it up even more. Bring the hands down to support you. Relax the legs. Turn back to the center of the chair. Walk your sit bones towards the front of the chair and then gently lean back and extend the legs out. Open those hips once again. Curl your toes back so you stretch the calf muscles. I'm going to show you one more way to open up the hip flexor. This is a very relaxing way to do it. You may fall asleep, so I'm going to warn you, be careful. You may fall asleep doing this, but it's a beautiful way to open up the hip flexor. And to tell you the truth, you can, I would recommend if you ever get a tight low back or a sore low back, this is a wonderful exercise to do. It's going to require a little bit of preparation with your chair. And I'm going to recommend if you have something like a towel or a blanket handy, you might want to gather that. And if you're feeling a little bit cool, put something warm on. All right? So here we go. This is how to do it. Firstly, come off your chair, standing up. And then you take your chair to the top of the mat. I'm going to do it sideways so you can see, and reverse the chair. So the chair is looking right at you. You put your towel or your blanket about shoulder width distance away from the chair. So you've got your towel or blanket on one side and you've got your chair. Now face the chair, lean into the chair and bend your knees and come onto your knees. So we're coming down to the ground here. So let me demonstrate. Come down onto your sit bones. When you're on your sit bones, you lay down and bring your legs up onto the chair, like that. Now if you were in bed, you could stack pillows underneath your knees. Bring your hands out 90 degrees, palms face up. Now this is how we open the hip flexor. Take your right leg off the chair, pivot your hips to the right and straighten the right leg out, and that opens up the right hip. Bring the hands out 90 degrees and relax. So if you were in bed with pillows, your pillows would still be under the left knee, but the right leg would be stretched out now. And that's going to open up that right hip. Now sometimes I hold this pose for 5 or 10 minutes. Because as you hold the pose, you can start to relax your low back. So if you feel your low back is a little tight right now, invite it to relax. We'll stay here for about 10 breaths. Make sure your head is supported in a way it feels comfortable. Your low back is melting into your mat. The more you relax the low back, the more that right hip opens. Feel your low back become heavy, relaxed, and feel that right hip flexor soften. So once again, you could hold this pose for many minutes, and it allows the hip to open slowly and softly. And as we don't have that amount of time in today's class, what we'll do is prepare to come back to neutral. So bring that right leg back up onto your chair or cushions. Straighten the hips. Relax your back. Walk your feet a little bit to the other side of the chair, and then this time extend the opposite leg. Hands out 90 degrees. Adjust your cushion for your head if you need to. Bring your awareness back into your low back. Let your low back become heavy and soft. Let your left hip flexor become soft and long. This is very therapeutic if you have any back issues. And even though we're only here for 5 to 10 breaths in today's class, that's something you could practice while you're in bed, or at home, you could bring your feet up on the couch, resting one foot and then the other. When you've done your 10 breaths, you can bring both legs back up onto the chair. And this is also a very relaxing, therapeutic exercise for your low back. So a little bit of advanced work in today's class, standing poses, supine poses on the back, a little bit of variety of how you can use your chair at home. If you're on the floor with me, you can squeeze the knees in towards you and rock from side to side. You can gently roll to one side, curl up into a little ball like you're asleep, curled up. And then you can carefully sit up either on the floor or on your chair. And feeling the stillness after your practice. Feeling the contrast of not moving. And in particular, let your attention come down to your hip flexors. Just notice how your hips feel. And by all means, if you have any questions at the end of practice today, stay online and we can have a chat. Namaste. Thank you.